Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Bhadram Karnebhih Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyemakshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangai Stushtovagmsastanubhih Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vridhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarksho Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brahaspatir Dadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om, salutations to all. Welcome back to the Prashnopanishad. We have seen 5 questions so far. The first question, Kabandhi asks Pippalaada Rishi. So 6 disciples had gone and approached Pippalaada Rishi. Each of them at different levels of evolution. They had their own questions. Pippalaada Rishi asked them to stay for 1 year in Tapasya, Shraddha, Brahmacharya. And he said, if I know the answers, then I will tell you. Ask the questions after 1 year. If I know the answers, then I will tell you. They stayed as per the instructions, and then one by one they asked the questions. So Kabandhi asked the questions about from where are all these creatures born, from where did this world of objects originate. Bhargava asked Pippalaada Rishi about how many devatas are there who are supporting this body. Of them, who is the most prominent? What are the instruments of knowledge or illumination in this physical body? So we saw the answer. For the first one was from prana all creatures are born. In the second one it was said prana is the most important. And remember, prana there is not the Panchavayu. Prana there is consciousness. Then Kausalya asked Pippalaada Rishi, from where is this prana born? How does he enter the body? How does he dwell? How does he support the things external and within the body? And how does he live? Here prana is the Panchavayu. So these questions we saw in detail. Then Gargya asked Pippalaada Rishi, which are the organs that sleep, which keep awake, which see the dreams? So what is the situation in the dream state? Who sees the dream? And then what is the state of deep sleep? That was the question. Who gets the joy of deep sleep? And on which all these depend? That was about the Atma. What is that on which all these, the 3 states and the entire world depends? And then the last question that we saw was about what is the destiny of one who meditates on Om until his death. So we saw the Krama Mukti Marg. Jivan Mukti is the best to attain, but in case one is not able to attain that, then Omkar Upasana one does full life. And we saw it is not just chanting Om, it is having the bhav of identification, losing the identification with this one body, identifying with the total gross body or the entire waking state. So identifying with the Virat, that is Akara Upasana. Identifying with Hiranyagarbha is Ukara Upasana. That Makara is the identification with Ishvara. And beyond that is Brahman, the silence between the two Oms. So in this Upanishad, the question is, what is the gati of that person? Meaning that person who has not yet attained Jivan Mukti. So then it was said that this person will go through the northern path, the Uttarayana time. So that path, the northern path, the solar path, Surya Marga. And one will go to Brahmalok, and from there one will get the knowledge and attain the Jivan Mukti. So these 5 questions we saw, and each of them we also saw that there is a build-up of there are different upasanas also which were spoken about. Brahmagyan now is specifically asked in this 6th question. So Sukesha approaches Pippalaada Rishi. So that is where we have to pick up now. Now, the purpose of any Upanishad is Brahmagyan actually. And we know that this Upanishad is to elaborate more on the Mundaka Upanishad. So many concepts of Mundaka Upanishad, which are just referred there, mentioned there, they are elaborated in Prashna Upanishad. So the Brahmagyan portion in Prashna Upanishad is very less, the pure Vedant Brahmagyan part. The Upasana portion, the other sadhanas which are important to purify the mind to realize Brahmagyan, those are much more in this. So, but this last chapter specifically comes, the question is asked, and the Brahmagyan comes specifically in this last chapter. So when the disciple is asking the question, he is asking the question about Shodashakala Purusha. Now to explain the Purusha in the purest form, which are without any pointers, is not possible. Silence alone can be experienced as the nature of the self, absolute silence. I'm not talking about silence of speech or mind, beyond that. That's the only way to realize it, is to know it. There is no other method. How much ever words we use, one can't explain. But without the medium of words, one cannot communicate. And also without a certain conditioning, it is not possible to explain about Brahman also. Though Brahman is infinite, self is infinite, there is no way to describe, and there are no limitations in that. Yet the only way to realize this is to use some temporary conditioning with which our mind will be lifted up, and then we drop that conditioning. So here Shodashakala Purusha is like that. Purusha obviously is infinite consciousness. There is no boundary in Purusha. There is no limitation in that Purusha. And by Purusha here we mean not the gender. We mean the absolute consciousness. Puraushete, one, the consciousness which illumines this body. And Purnatvat Purusha, that which is complete, which is Purnam. There is no incompleteness in that. That which is infinite, that Purusha does not have any conditionings at all. Then what are these Shodasha Kalas? So these kalas are not like parts. It's not that Purusha has 16 parts. Purusha is one indivisible. But the example Gurudev has given, two beautiful examples he has given. If you see in his commentary in the introduction of this sixth question, in the second para, he says very nicely, this is something like a colored slide being observed by a student in his laboratory. In order to bring the structure of the cells vividly to the observer's view, the slides are generally colored or pigmented. And during the recording of the observations, the student observes the slide so colored, but understands them as without the color. The pigment in it only facilitates easy observation. So though the student is seeing the slide with color, sometimes that violet ink easily also dropped, and then you can see the cell. So one uses that only to understand. One knows that color doesn't belong there. That is one example he gives, saying this kalas are like that. They are superimposed on the self to understand what the nature of the self is. What are these kalas? This chapter will explain. The 16 facets, one can say, as though. So the second example Gurudev has used is, it is like the diamond. Diamond is one, but there are different facets of the diamond, the way it is cut. Same way, Purusha is only one. It's not that Purusha has 16 different parts, like we have hands and legs and head and all that. So don't imagine some Purusha with 16 parts. So he says it is not like that. So he gives the example of the diamond. So these diamonds are how they are cut from various sides. And then is one diamond which is, you can turn around and see different facets of the diamond will be there. Obviously, Purusha is not having such cut facets, but the analogy is indicating that there is no difference. Like how the diamond is only one. There are no parts in the diamond, but there are various facets to the diamond. Same way, Purusha is one, infinite, no attributes in it, no parts in it. But these are superimposed just to understand. Like Gurudev gives another example of the ghost on the post has various limbs. It appears like that. But in the vision of the post, all the limbs, everything disappears. Because nothing is there actually in that. There's only a post. So when one is deluded, the world appears very real. So then the 16 kalas are superimposed on the Purusha, saying these things which appear real are actually appearance of Purusha in these different forms. And then the mind is, turned within. Where is that Purusha? In you as the true self. So from external, the mind turns internal. And slowly one transcends that mind. Then there is no kala, there is no division, there is nothing. Purusha Prakriti division also goes. There is only Brahman. So Shodashakala Purusha, this is that chapter. And every Upanishad will have some Mahavakya. So this chapter will have the Mahavakya also about the Jiva being one with Brahman. Now, before we go into the first mantra, one more beautiful aspect Gurudev has explained here, that because there are so many upasanas given in this Prashnopanishad, he writes in the second last para from the middle portion, he says, when we understand it sympathetically, we can say that Jnana Marg consists of a happy synthesis of both the intense technique of bhakti and the philosophical contemplation prescribed in Vedanta. The student is made to practice upasana hand in hand with regular doses of philosophical contemplation. This is very important. Many times we forget this. So we say, no, I don't believe in Upasana, I don't believe in form, I am a Vedantin. Upanishads themselves have given so many Upasanas. If our mind was so subtle that it can live in that attitude that I am Brahman throughout, then we don't need Upasana. But our mind is not like that. It keeps coming down to body level, identifies with the things outside, has attachments. So it has to be purified. So as a Vedantic student, I should ask myself, what is the sadhana I am doing for my Chitta Shuddhi in terms of Karma Yoga I may be doing, but how much do I remember Bhagavan in that Karma Yoga? And which is the Upasana that I am doing? Because in Karma Yoga, the senses are active. In Upasana, one has withdrawn the senses and one is focusing. I'm talking about that Upasana which one sits down and does specifically, like Omkar meditation, etc. So I should ask myself that if I am an Uttamadhikari and full time my mind remains in a contemplative state about the self, then that's a different matter. But if that is not happening, then I have to do this Upasana. And there's nothing wrong, nothing to feel, oh, I am lesser, I am not evolved, I am not yet qualified. Nothing like that. One should just keep preparing oneself and keep moving. So here it is. Gurudev says there is a beautiful synthesis. In Jnana Marg, there is a happy synthesis of both intense technique of bhakti and philosophical contemplation. And they are not contradictory. If I am sitting and doing Chintan, Nididhyasan, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, and at some other time one worships the Shivalinga, there is no contradiction. Because many times Vedantic students, we will say that, oh, God is not outside anywhere, God is not in stones, God is not in temples, God is not in any of this, God is in you, God is only the self. Who said God is only inside? And what is the division of inside and outside? That itself is a false division based on the body. So there itself we have lost the plot. There's no inside and outside. If a pot is put in the ocean, then one will say there is water inside the pot and water outside the pot. But otherwise, what inside, outside the ocean? There is only water. So if I say that, no, outside, so I don't need to go to temple, I don't need to worship idol because Bhagavan is not there, then what is there outside? Somebody else is there, some other entity is there, matter is there. From where did that matter come? That we saw, no? From prana only it came. Antar bahicha tat sarvam vyapya narayana sthitah. Inside, outside, everywhere is Narayana only. So there is no contradiction at all. So one should remember that. And this whole Upanishad keeps reminding us again and again of that aspect. Now, the sixth question. So before the student asks the sixth question, the student gives a background of that question to the teacher. Let us read the first mantra. Atha hainam Sukesha Bharadwaja papracha Bhagavan Hiranyanaabhah Kausalyo Rajaputro Mamupetya Etam Prashnam Aprachata Shodashakalam Bharadwaja Purusham Vetha Tam Aham Kumaram Abruvam Naham Imam Veda Yadi Aham Imam Vedisham Katham Te Na Avakshyam Iti Samulo va esha parishusyati yo anritam abhivadati tasman narhami anritam vaktum satushnim prathamaruhya pravavraja tam tva pritchami kvasau purusha iti. So what is this anecdote? Athaha enam. Enam means Pippalaada Rishihi. Atha means the previous query has ended, the new one has started now. If you remember in the listing which was done of the 6 disciples, Sukesha Bharadwaja was listed first, and he is asking the question last. So this disciple Sukesha Bharadwaj, the name is Sukesha, and he is born in the Bharadwaja Kula, so Bharadwajaha. So he asks the question, and the anecdote he narrates before that is this. Bhagavan, he addresses Pippalaada Rishi, O Bhagavan, Hiranyanaabhah Kausalyo, there was this king Rajaputro. Hiranyanaabhah is his name, and he is born in the Kausalya, in the lineage of Kausalya. Now, not Kaushalya of Ramayana. Kausalya is another lineage, like Bharadwaja is a lineage. In that, his ancestors must be having that name, Kula, the family name. So this king Hiranyanaabhah actually is a prince. Rajaputro, he said. So he's a prince. So this prince Hiranyanaabhah, Mamupetya, he approached me and etam prashnam apricchata. He asked this question. What is that question? Shodashakalam Bharadwaja Purusham Vetha. Do you know about the Shodashakala Purusha? Now just think about it. The prince is asking Sukesha, do you know about Shodashakala Purusha? That means even the kings, the leaders in those times, they valued this Brahmagyan and they sought Brahmagyan from such seekers. So it's not that they are interested only in ruling and expanding the territory and filling up the treasury and living a life of enjoyment. He has not yet become the king. He is still a prince. And even then, as a prince, he has the value for it. So he asks Sukesha, do you know about Shodashakala Purusha? Now, Sukesha, what does he reply? Tam aham kumaram abruvam. To that prince, I said, na aham imam veda. That I don't know this. How beautiful is that? To say that I don't know truthfully, there is nothing wrong in that. One can say, I don't know. Why should one appear to be all-knowing? When one doesn't know so many things, one can just say, I don't know, I will find out and I can tell you. That one simple statement, our ego doesn't allow us to tell others. We know inside we don't know, but we will still tell something which comes to our mind. We may not even verify it. We may not even know the proper answer. Just somehow we will tell something. Even in simple things like showing direction to people. If somebody asks, where is this place? If one sees one doesn't know, one should just say, I don't know. But no, he will say, you go from here, this place, and then from there you take a left, you will reach. Simply misguiding people. It happens for so many things. On some topic, somebody asks something, I don't know. Even so many current affair things, what are happening, who knows everything in detail? So if one doesn't know, one just says, I don't know. Why spread some rumor, some gossip, or some, false idea just cooked up by oneself? So many forwards one keeps on sending. One doesn't even verify, one doesn't even know whether it is truth or not, but one is passing on. So here he is very clear. He says, I don't know. And he doesn't feel any shame about it. The other day, somebody asked me, please give me the scriptural references for Holika Dahan. So I replied to him saying that I know that in Srimad Bhagavatam it is not there. I will find out and I will tell you. What is wrong in that? I don't know where else it is mentioned, so I will find out and I will tell you. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is only mentioned that Prahlad was thrown into the fire. Holika Prasang is not there in Srimad Bhagavatam. In the Sanskrit verses, Mula, it is not there. At least the Gita Press version that I follow, in that I saw it is not there. Then I started finding out. And then somebody said that, in Agni Puran it is mentioned. And the name there mentioned is Simhika. Simhika is another name for Holika. So then some references came, and then we saw in that Agni Puran also. And then in that Agni Puran, only the name of Simhika is mentioned as the daughter of Diti. So Daityas and all of them are born from Diti. So Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, all of them. And so that establishes that she is the sister of Hiranyakashipu. But the prasang of Holika is not there. So from then we have been searching. If anybody knows references, please share. What I mean to say is, when we don't know something, we just should say I don't know. I will find out. What is wrong in that? Unless just simply saying that, oh, I think it will be there in this. I think it is there in this Brahmand Puran. You go check it out. Why? I don't know. I will find out and tell you. That's a simple answer to give. So here he says that, I don't know. He doesn't feel that, I am a full-time seeker and, this king has come and how can I tell him that I don't know? What will he think about me? Whatever he will think about me doesn't matter. I am going to be truthful, as simple as that. So he said, I don't know. Gurudev writes very beautiful one line here. He says, in this third paragraph in the commentary of this shloka, a true seeker of knowledge must be ready to own his ignorance. Beautiful line. A true seeker of knowledge must be ready to own his ignorance. And yet, how few of us can stand against the self-insulting challenge of knowledge not known? Self-insulting challenge. We unnecessarily make it an ego issue that, oh, how can I not know? I don't know, simple. And then the mind will start going in the direction of finding out then. Otherwise, one is covered up. When one tells that, oh, I think it is there in this Purana, the curiosity and the desire to know. When I say I don't know, it will give rise to the desire to know. But if I, just imagine, not imagine, just I tell something off the top of my head, I think it is there in this. You check it out, go. Or one says, yeah, I know Shodashakala Purusha, and someone cooks up some theory and just says something. It will destroy that curiosity, it will destroy that purity of mind. One will not even seek further. And it will boost the ego, saying, see, that king came, I told him what I knew. I just cooked up something and I told him, and he was so convinced, look at my power of communication. All that, the ego will get boosted. Waste. Especially on the spiritual path, it is taking in the opposite direction. So Sukesha was very clear. He says, I don't know. Now that prince, he can't believe that he doesn't know. So from the facial expressions of that the prince, Sukesha understood that no, he is not believing that I don't know. So Sukesha further says, Yadi aham imam vedisham katham te na avakshamiti. If I knew, why would I not tell you? So it is not that I know and I am, greedy for some gold coins or something. or I know and I have some intellectual property rights over it, so I will not share that knowledge with you. It is not like that. He says, if I knew, why would I not? Which means that they are so selfless in giving knowledge. If one has knowledge, one should share it. Let others benefit. We are today living in the age of intellectual copyrights and whatever property rights and all that, patenting and so many things. In the Vedic times, knowledge is given free. Entire gurukuls were being run without being charged anything. If the disciple feels benefited, then the disciple can give some Guru Dakshina, otherwise nothing. Knowledge is invaluable, not charged. So, he says, if I knew, why would I not tell you? I mean, what will I get by holding back this knowledge? Knowledge given more becomes more and more refined in the person. As one keeps on sharing, it keeps increasing. It's not like finite wealth. The more you give, the lesser it becomes. Knowledge, the more one gives, the more it goes deeper in oneself. And it will benefit others also. That's how we worship knowledge in this country. Our country is the country where people revel in knowledge. That's the meaning of Bharat. So he said, if I knew, why would I not tell you? Now still that prince can't believe that he doesn't know. How can he not know? Now that also shows that they have that much of Shraddha also in the seeker. And Sukesha Bharadwaja must be a renowned person. That's why the prince has come there. May or may not be renowned, but at least he is a tapasvi. That much is known. So he must have found out, and he has approached Sukesha Bharadwaj. Now Sukesha says, I don't know. So he can't believe. So Sukesha says, if I knew, why will I not tell you? And Shankaracharya, you will see in the commentary, he says, you are a deserving person, you are an adhikari. Why will I not share this knowledge to an adhikari? Still, Sukesha cannot believe. I mean, the prince, Hiranyanaabhah, he cannot believe. So, another logic Sukesha gives. Yadi aham imam vedisham katham te na avaksham iti samulo va esha parishusyati yo anritam abhivadati. He said samulo va parishusyati. The root, branch, leaf, everything. Samula means that. Mula is root. Root, branches, leaf, meaning the tree will completely get destroyed. Meaning the individual and even one's own family. The source of the individual is a family from where one is born, in the kula in which one is born. He says if a person tells lies, it will affect other people in the family also, because they are bound by karma. In the world also we see that. Now, if the father has done some cheating, some money is taken and is absconding or is, not repaying, it will affect the whole family. So here he says that samulova esha parishusyati yaha anritam abhivadati. If somebody tells lies, their whole family will get the karmic phala, and here it is said will get destroyed. So tasman na arhami anritam vaktum. Hence, I cannot afford to tell lies. That I don't know is not a lie, it is the truth. Because if I know and I tell you I don't know, it is a lie. And if I tell lies, then my whole family, including me, we will all perish. See the value for truth also. The seeker of the absolute truth has to follow this path of the truth at the relative level also. Again, as we see, Prashnopanishad is an elaboration of Mundakopanishad. So in Mundakopanishad, that famous line comes, which is our national emblem. Satyameva jayate na anritam. Truth alone wins, not falsehood. Again, there it is said, Satyena Pantha Vitato Devayanaha. It is only through the path of truth that people walk. Even the Krama Mukti one will get only through this. Jivan Mukti, so definitely one cannot get without the path of truth. And by compromising on the path of truth, one cannot get. Even Krama Mukti one will not get. Because the Loka one is going is Satya Loka. One can't go to Satya Loka by falsehood. The path to truth, the truth is reached through the truth. So at the relative level also, truth is very important. So he says, I don't know, and if I tell lies, then my whole family, everything will get destroyed. And when he says Samulo, it also means my good karmas will get destroyed. So here my life will be destroyed. Hereafter also it will be destroyed. So I cannot tell lies. Now the prince is convinced. He says, okay, now if he's saying this much. So the prince is convinced. Sa tushnim rathamaruhya pravraja. So he climbed the chariot and he went. Now Sukesha could have said, okay, I don't know. I told him I don't know, matter closed. This is the quest in the seeker. If I don't know something, then I should find out. No, but that prince went, now what is the use? The important point here is, what is the question he asked is about Purusha, absolute self. And if that absolute self I don't know about, what else I am living for? Human life is to know the self. Rest of the things are only accessories, they are secondary. They are to help us to know the self. And that self he came and asked about. Now I don't know that self. And Shodashakala I have not heard. I have no idea where it is. So it is not some, unimportant question. It is the question for which the human birth is taken. Even simple other questions, if a seeker is a seeker of knowledge, will definitely want to know. One should learn. One should, keep oneself in that mode of continuously learning new things. Learn about the world. Learn about oneself. Learn about God, Jiva, Jagat, Jagadishwara. Keep learning. So much to learn. But without losing the hold on the essentials. What is the essential factor? Essential truth is, who am I? I have to know. The rest of it will be after that. Forgetting who am I or not pursuing that knowledge of the self, where I try to know 100 other things, then I am lost in the world. So here he is a seeker of that self, and this Hiranyanaabhah, he came asking specifically about Shodashakala Purusha. He didn't ask anything else. So now Sukesha is very inquisitive. Now just imagine, to know this answer, what did he do? He approached Pippalaada Rishi, stayed one whole year in the ashram there, in tapasya, in brahmacharya, in shraddha and all that, and waited for these other 5 to finish their question. Now he's asking, look at the effort he has put behind this to get the answer. He could have been impatient. He could have been like, no, I mean, 1 year and all, I can't stay. I'll go to somebody else and find out. But he stayed. And there also is waiting patiently, let everybody else finish their question, then I will ask mine. So he approached. So he says, Tam tva prichhami. That question I am asking you, Kva asau Purusha iti. Where is this Purusha? There is a Purusha is clear to him. Where is this Purusha? That is his question. So now when he says, where is this Purusha? It is not just that he is asking, where is this Purusha? He's actually asking the identity of the Purusha with oneself. So the answer we will see as we go along, but this is the prasang, this is the context, how this anecdote has come and the background he gives. And he's so, see, another point to understand here is he's very honest even with the teacher. He need not have given the background. He could have just directly asked the question saying, please tell me about Shodashakala Purusha and where it is. Simple, he could have directly asked that. But he gave the background, very honest to the teacher. He doesn't feel that what is this teacher going to think about me, that I don't know this. And, a prince came to me and he asked the question and I couldn't reply. It will, it will portray me as such a dumb fellow, dull-witted person or adham adhikari. No. I can't tell this to the teacher. So let me just ask, what is the question? Anyway, I'm not telling lies. I am only asking the question. One can rationalize like that in one's mind. Sukesha could have easily done that, saying, no need to give any background. Just ask the question, and then he can go back to this Hiranyanaabhah, and he can say, now I know, I found out, this is the answer. So Hiranyanaabhah also can be very happy. My image also in front of the teacher is not spoiled. I came to know the answer also, and I can contemplate and I can realize the truth. So it's a win-win situation for me, for Hiranyanaabhah, and for the teacher. This way the intellect can easily rationalize. If one has gone to a Brahmagyani and one wants Brahmagyan, one has to be transparent, par, full. There is not, what are we hiding? Behind what? False entity called ego we are hiding, trying to boost that ego, which is anyway a myth. What difference does it make even if the teacher thinks anything? First of all, the teacher looks at the disciple only as Brahman. There is no question of the teacher looking at disciple as a jiva. Relative level, one may even transact as a teacher and a student, but the vision of the teacher is everything is Brahman, full stop. Why will the teacher think that the student is lesser, what a dumb fellow is, what a dull-witted fellow is? The Upanishads, especially the rishis of the Upanishads, they are most compassionate. Even the dumbest, dullest student is not condemned. The sadhana that student should do to lift oneself from there, the teacher starts pointing out that. There is no condemnation of the student at all in the Upanishads, however dull the student may be. And there is an example also for it. Kenopanishad, that one dullest student is there. Entire Upanishad is over. After that, he, as though he wakes up, meaning he was not asleep. He is listening, but he can't understand because mind is not ready. So when the whole thing is over, he is still waiting. So he says, Upanishadam bho bruhi. You please tell what is the Upanishad. Now the teacher doesn't condemn him, saying, Arey, I just told you what is the Upanishad. What were you thinking till now? Where is your mind? You can't grasp this much. The teacher starts giving values and upasanas and different upasanas, the blinking of the eye, the thunder and the lightning, all different upasanas he gives to the student. Mundakopanishad also has upasanas for Satyam, etc., which are given. Prashnopanishad already has 5 questions earlier. So the disciple, whatever is the situation of the disciple, from there the teacher will figure out how to lift the student up to make the student realize the self. So that false, retention, the false image that one wants to portray to the teacher that, oh, I am so knowledgeable, or this is my independent question. That's another point. This question is the question which was asked by the prince. And he doesn't know the answer for that. So he goes and tells that very clearly that this is not my question. Now I want to know about it because my quest is to know the self, but Shodashakala Purusha is not a question that has come to me directly. This is asked by that prince, and then I didn't know, and so I told him that I don't know, and he left, and so now I am here because I want to know. It's very clear. There are some people who borrow questions of people and put it as their own question just to make the opposite person think that, oh, what an intelligent question this person asked. How intelligent person this must be, what a question he asked. Nobody asked such a question. And then they'll go and boast to the people also, I asked this question to such and such person, and that person was just zapped. And that person couldn't even answer. All building false images in the mind of that opposite person, in the mind of the listener to whom one is narrating this entire thing. All mithya it is. Not what is it called? Mithyacharasa uchyate. In the Gita, Bhagavan calls such a person hypocrite. Why one should do that? So very sincerely he tells the teacher, this is the question that prince had asked. See the value of truth that Sukesha has. He told the truth to the prince. He said, I don't know. And he explained why how he is telling that fact that he doesn't know. And the prince got convinced, and then he left. See his humility in that also. When the prince is not able to believe, Sukesha doesn't take it egoistically, and Sukesha doesn't say, I am telling you, I don't know. Why don't you believe me? What should I do to prove that I am telling you the truth? Can't you just believe what I am saying? I don't know. Go, get lost. He could have reacted that way also. Because when one doesn't know, it will pinch the ego. Then one takes it personally. Then one will react. Sukesha was what Gurudev wrote, that line that's why very powerful. He said, a seeker should own up one's ignorance. Yes, I don't know. And not take it personally. Then one can react, one can respond with humility. So he says, I don't know. And when Sukesha's face, the Hiranyanaabhah's face is showing, the expression that how come you don't know? So he logically explaining that if I knew, why will I not tell you? You are an adhikari. And if I tell lies, my this life and next life, everything is destroyed. So why will I not tell you? Simple. How, without making an ego issue of it, the entire situation is diffused. It could have been a situation where one would think that, this prince has come here to insult me. And if today's media you go by, the headlines will be, a Kshatriya prince comes to insult a Brahmin seeker. And the Brahmin seeker was shown his place, that he doesn't know even this much. Then what kind of a Brahmin he is? Oh, it will be blown out of proportion. Nothing. That whole situation is diffused because there's nothing to get, there's no ammunition inside in that. Unnecessarily, the ego fills all the ammunition and creates a blast for nothing. So he was humble. He explained to that student, to the prince, I don't know. He gave the reasons why he doesn't know. That prince got convinced and he went. And then he comes to the teacher Pippalaada and again narrates the whole thing, because he doesn't want the teacher to feel that it is my question or any such wrong notion. He tells very clearly, there is a value for truth. Who can value truth? Only a person who really wants to know the truth and who is ready to let go of the ego and the false masks and the image factor that we have built. That person only can actually hold on to the truth. Otherwise, for our image factor only we compromise, and then for our comforts we compromise, and then we tell lies, do wrong things, immoral things, unethical things, so many things one does. So there is this beautiful background to this question and so many things to learn as a seeker from Sukesha. Now, let us see. Shankaracharya ji gives an introduction before he goes into the explanation of each word of this mantra. He builds a background. So you see here the bhashya now. Atha hainam Sukesha Bharadwaja papracha. So to Pippalaada Rishi, Sukesha Bharadwaja asked. That's the first line of the mantra itself. Now the background Shankaracharya ji builds. Samastam jagat karya karana lakshanam saha vijnanatmana parasmin akshare sushupti kale sampratishthita iti uktam. So what has been said earlier, he says, this entire world of cause and effect, including the jiva, vijnanatmana saha, this entire thing becomes unmanifest and gets as though established in the supreme Purusha, Akshare Parasmin, when Sushupti Kale, in deep sleep. What we saw in the previous, in the fourth question about deep sleep. So he says it was said that time that this entire world becomes unmanifest and gets absorbed as though in the deep sleep. And samarthyat pralaye api tasmin eva akshare sampratishthate jagat tata eva utpadyate iti siddham bhavati. And based on this, it is also concluded that even in the time of pralaya, the same thing happens. The entire Srishti becomes unmanifest in the Supreme Purusha, in the Supreme Akshara, Brahman. And from there only again it emerges. And the reasoning given for it also is nahi akarane karyasya sampratishtanam upapadyate. The effect, because it is the cause in another form, when the effect is destroyed, it will go back to the cause only. It cannot go back to something which is not its cause. Meaning, suppose there is a pot. Now the pot is made from mud. If the pot is destroyed, it will again be mud only. It cannot become silver. It cannot go back into silver. It is mud. So it will be used again in mud, mixed up with the other mud, and again something else will be made from it. So the pot emerges from the mud, the pot goes back into mud. The dream, if our mind is the cause for the dream that we see, then when we wake up, the dream has gone back into our mind only. It cannot go back into somebody else's mind. The cause is here, from here the dream projected. It will go back here only. It can't go somewhere else. So if the entire Srishti is becoming unmanifest in the Purusha, coming out from Purusha, then Purusha is the cause. And this Karya Karana Srishti is there. No? So that goes back into the self. Then he says, Uktamcha Atmana Esha Prano Jayate. And it was also said in the first, this thing, from where all this is born. From prana, everything is born. Then in the third prashna, third mantra, again it was said, Atmana Esha Prano Jayate. So the oneness of this Atma and this prana, that was also explained, that this infinite consciousness in whom the entire world becomes unmanifest, from whom it emerges. Where is that? It is your own Atma. It is your own true self. Jagatascha yan moolam tat parigyanat param shreya iti sarva upanishadam nishchito arthaha. So the knowledge of this cause of the whole universe and the identity of that cause of the universe with one's true self, that knowledge of the Upanishads is the most important knowledge which is required to destroy this avidya and to free oneself from the cycle of birth and death. And hence, anantaram cha uktam sa sarvajnah sarvo bhavati. And whoever gains this knowledge, it was said in the fourth question in that 10th mantra, that whoever knows this becomes all knowing and becomes all. Sarvajnah and sarvaha bhavati. So how to know that self now? Vaktavyam cha kva tarhi tad aksharam satyam purushaksham vigneyam iti. Now that satyam aksharam purusham, that state of existence, imperishable truth, which is there, which is my true self, how am I to know that? Because till now in the Upanishad that was not spoken. So that's the background he has built. That pure consciousness from where the whole universe emerges, into which it goes back, which we also saw in the state of deep sleep, the similar thing happens. That is the cause for the whole universe. That same self is the cause for the whole universe, and that self is me. And this knowledge alone can liberate us from the cycle of birth and death. And whoever knows this, the result of the knowledge is that person becomes all-knowing and becomes everything. So the false notion that I am only this will get destroyed. Now, how to know that self? From where everything comes and from into which everything goes back. So he says, Tad artho ayam prashna arabhyate. To determine this, now this question has started. Vrittanta, Tadartho prashna arabhyate. Vrittan vyakhyanam Vrittan vakhyanam cha vijnanasya durlabhatva akhyapanena tallabdhyartham mumukshunam yatna vishesho upadanartham. Yatna vishesha upadanartham. So this anecdote of, before the question is asked, the whole anecdote what is given is to make one understand the rarity of this knowledge of the self. That this knowledge of the self is very rare to find, very subtle to understand and grasp. And even a student like Sukesha, who has been living the spiritual way of life, doing different sadhanas, upasanas, we saw in the beginning how these are not ordinary people. They themselves have done a lot of sadhanas. They have had darshan of the Lord, etc. Those such accomplished people also, they need to know the self. So he says that this rarity of this and subtlety of this self-knowledge is indicated, and to find some teacher who can give this knowledge is very durlabh, is very rare. So for the mumukshu, so much more effort has to be put to communicate the rarity of the self and the effort that should be put to know the self. This whole akhyayika or this anecdote is explained. So that's what he says here. That the seeker must put great effort. One should not become slack in one's effort. So to communicate that how rare is this knowledge and how one should follow the path of the truth and how the special efforts have to be put to know the self. So for all this, the anecdote has been given in the Upanishad, because Upanishad otherwise in minimum words will try to indicate the absolute self. This anecdote, why is it suddenly coming? Nowhere else in the questions earlier there is an anecdote. So Shankaracharya says this is the background of the anecdote. So that's where we will stop, and mantra proper bhashya we take up in our next class. Wish you all a very happy Yugadi, the Hindu New Year, the Chaitra Mas Pratipada started sometime yesterday and continues even today. So wish you all a happy Yugadi. Any questions for today? You're welcome to ask. All right. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.